Are we live? Can I say I'm speaking? I'm speaking, Mr. President. I'm speaking. The Democrats released a very beautiful cartoon of Donald Trump, the dictator. I'll have to release that on my main channel. Hopefully, I'm not going to get copyright strike because I noticed that they're doing this. I don't know which parts of the Kamala Harris campaign is it, but like they will release a promo video or something, and if you upload it and you agree with it and you're liking it, then they allow you to have it. But if you're uploading it and you're offering criticism and you're doing transformative content and they don't like it, then they copyright strike. Which is very interesting. Very interesting. The copyright system wasn't designed to prevent people from receiving criticism. It was designed to protect you from having others take your work and monetize it. So if you make a book, right, you want to sell that book and you don't want like someone else to take your book, make copies of it and give it for free, right? Because you're losing money and you spent a lot of time writing it. So it makes sense. But transformative work, like if someone takes your book and then adds commentary to it and all of that stuff and it transforms the work, then that's not your product anymore. Anyway, Ubisoft isn't doing very good. Now, it wasn't doing very good yesterday, but when I checked today, it managed to show me that, no, actually, we can do worse. So their stocks, I believe, is at $9, 9 euros. I'm not a person to give financial advice or anything like that, but I was told by Asmongold, who apparently has given very wise financial advice, that you shouldn't buy the dip, right? Like, people wanted to buy the dip here, and Asmongold said, wait. And it turns out that he was absolutely right. It turns out that waiting has paid off. Now, I don't know if Asmongold thinks that we should wait a little bit more before we buy the dip. But here's the thing, right? I actually spoke with some people from within the company, and the reason that they keep hiring diversity consultants and stuff, like Asmongold says, it's to please the journalists. No. There are government grants which are dependent on the diversity you have in your company. Like, how many homosexuals did you hire? How many women? How many black people? And then it's also dependent on the message you push, right? And this is usually with investors. Like, the whole idea of investors, like, again, you need to understand what's happening. Like, the way banks used to work is that they would be like, yeah, we're going to lend you money, but we want you to show us that your business is functional. Because we don't want you to go out of a business and then be unable to pay us. So, like, prove to us that you can do what it takes to repay us. And usually they had, like, different systems to measure financial risk, right? Like, there were certain businesses that were considered volatile. There were certain businesses that were considered safe. So they would create a system that was like trying to see if a business is sustainable. But unfortunately, after Wall Street happened, after Occupy Wall Street happened, the banks realized, oh shit, if people come together, if you have the left and the right coming together in a populist movement, we're fucked. We are so fucked, right? Because, like, you don't want the people to start looking at the banks. Or you want people to be divisive. You want people to argue with each other. You want people to think it's their neighbor that's the reason their life is shit. So, the banks came up with, well, it's not that they came up. Like, this ideology always existed, but it was in the academia. And it was like, what if we fund this ideology? Because they noticed that within Wall Street, what destroyed Wall Street was wokeness. Like, you had people coming together, and they were like, foreclose on banks, don't foreclose on people. And the reason Wall Street happened is because the banks decided to give loans to people that couldn't pay it back, and then when the banks were going bankrupt, the government bailed them out, right? And people were rightfully pissed. It's like, hold on a little bit. If I make a loan and I can't pay it, I lose my house. If I start the business and I don't make the good financial decision, I lose my business. Well, why is it that the banks are able to not play by the same game? Like, why are they different? Why is the government taking my money and giving it to the rich? So, you have, like, all these people getting together in Occupy Wall Street. You have men, you have women, you have people of color, you have left-leaning people, you have right-wing people. Everyone is joining forces, And it's like, no, fuck the 1%, right? And all of a sudden, you have like these people with a lot of time, a lot of activists, students from the academia going around like, well, actually, you don't get to speak. You don't get to speak because you're a white man. We want to hear from the person in the wheelchair. It doesn't matter if you're more experienced than them. Experience doesn't matter. What you have to say doesn't matter. What matters is disability. I want to hear the people that have disability. I want to hear them talk about the bank. So when you have like that mental illness, and when you have like, you know, this ideology coming up, a lot of people leave, right? Because it's like, oh, well, if we're not welcome here, we're just going to leave. And it destroyed Occupy Wall Street. So what the bank said, it's like, hold on a little bit. Maybe we're up to something. Like, what if we fund this ideology? What if we promote it at a large scale so that it's pushed everywhere and then it creates division and people don't look at us anymore? And this is why, you know, like JP Morgan was from getting protested. It's like foreclose on banks, don't foreclose on people. Now JP Morgan is chased. It's like, yeah, trans rights are human rights. And everyone has like a parade and they're like, oh, the LGBT party in front of JP Morgan and shit. So as I mentioned before, in order to get a loan from them, in order to access funds, you had to show that your business is profitable. But now what they're saying is like, no, you know, you need to be woke. Because the future is woke. And if you're not woke, then you're going to have people on social media that will cancel your business. They will give downvotes to your games. They will give you negative reviews. They will harass your developers. And what's going to happen is that you're going to be out of a business. So if we invest money in you and you're not politically aware, you're not politically conscientious, then we're going to lose our investment. So unless you can prove that you are in tune with the new generation and you say the correct things, we're not going to give you cash. So in order for these game companies to be able to access the ESG funds, they would have to hire consultant teams, right? So you pay a company like Sweet Baby, they come in, they make sure that, okay, well, we don't like the way the women are, like they're too feminine. We need you to masculinize her, stronger jawline, stronger, more strong, more jawline, more. Okay, enough jawline. You know what? No, actually add a bit more. What is up with those tits? Women don't have tits like that. Smaller tits. Get a titty cancer. Smaller. Right? So, like, they make all these changes. Add pronouns. Don't use the word female. That's offensive. Body type B. So, after they're making all these changes, now the game is approved. So, they go to the bank, and they're like, look, we got an approval from Sweet Baby. Like, they were consulting us, and they say that we did a good job. Can we get the loan? Badum, bada bish, you get the loan. The problem is, people don't want to buy it because Sweet Baby never talked to the gamers. They're not vibing with the gamers, right? They're not mingling with the gamers. They're disgusted by the gamers. So all their choices, all the stuff that they're making ends up with the customer being upset. And the customer have put up with it for a while because gaming was addictive and people really couldn't help themselves but to buy the product. But after a while, people were sick on it. Like, gaming literally isn't fun. I don't even need to boycott games anymore. I'm just not interested in them. Like, it has reached to a point where I have been disappointed so many times. And when you launch a game now, it's just not fun. Like, objectively, it's not fun. So why should I pay money for it? See, that's the thing, like, you can't really destroy the banks because you still need them. But, like, maybe the people in charge should be changed. Like, this is what I don't get. So you have a bank that's going bankrupt and the government bails them out. And the people in charge of the banks, they get big checks and they go on holiday. Like, how the fuck is that fair? How is that fair? Is V going full base because of what happened to Jones? I don't know what happened to... Oh, Alex Jones. I was always like this, Reggie. I don't think I'm going full base. Like, this has always been my talking points. Yeah, what happened to Alex Jones? Like you have Project Veritas doing a hidden camera interview with one of the... I think it was an FBI agent. And he's like, oh yeah, well, Alex Jones was inconveniencing us, so we had to just, nudge people in the right direction. Interesting. So it wasn't about like the FBI like looking at the grieving families and being like, oh, they need justice, like we should help. No, no, no. It was like Alex Jones is causing problem. We need to nudge the families in the right direction. We can do horrific things to people in charge. Angry mobs work. Zixia, do you really want to get banned by Google that much? Now, the reality is that the government, like, there is a way that you can mess with the banks, but most governments in the world are preventing people from doing it. The way you can mess with the banks is called a run on the banks. So, the banks never have the amount of money that they owe to people. Like in a way, it's kind of difficult to explain financially speaking, but they pretty much can create money, right? So like when you go to a bank and you want to make a loan, the bank can actually create money that doesn't exist to give you the loan. And then you give it back to them. It's some sort of like financial loop. It doesn't really matter. It's a lot more complex to explain. But like let's put it like this, right? So what would happen is like if every single person right now would go to the bank and demand that they get paid in cash, right? Like you want all your money, like whatever is in the bank. You go to the bank and you say, I want to clear out my account. I want the money in hand. If every single person does that, the bank goes bankrupt. It's called a run-in on the banks. They tried this in France and they put a limit on it. Like, again, the government obviously protects the banks because it's not just the banks, it's the government. So they're going to be like, no, we're not going to allow people to do this. It happened in Greece. Like the reason one of the most resistant countries in Europe against digital currency is Greece is because when Greece went insolvent, well, it went bankrupt, or was it close to bankruptcy? I forgot. But like it had the economic crisis, right? You would go to an ATM and the ATM wouldn't allow you to withdraw more than, I don't know how much was it at the time. It was like 50 euros a day, let's say, right? So it was your money, it was your cash, but like you couldn't withdraw it. So since that time, people from Greece and even people from Romania do this. The moment you get paid, the moment you get your wage, you go to the ATM and you empty it out. And I remember like I was talking to my bank manager because like if you have a company, if you have more than a certain sum of money, like the bank gives you a manager that's yours, and you get to talk to her, right? So like she was asking me like, why do you keep withdrawing the cash? Like why not just let it in? And I generally asked her a legit question: what advantage is there if I let the cash in? And she couldn't answer. Because back in the day of my grandma, if you let the money in, you would actually get an income. So if you deposited money on the bank, they would give you interest. But nowadays, you actually lose money if you just let it in the bank because they have all sorts of not taxes, it's fees. They have all sorts of like security fee, credit card fee, this type of fee, that type of fee. And if you just let your money stay in the bank, you actually lose money. It's not a lot, but like, you know, like every month there's more fees. You can't have your money. Well, yeah, see, the thing with the shotgun is actually something really interesting because in the United States, there are two ways of doing, to saving the banks, right? Like if the bank goes bankrupt, it's usually bad for other businesses. And there's two ways of fixing it. You can either do a bail-in or a bail-out. A bailout means that the government pays the banks so that they don't go bankrupt, right? So like the government takes the debt from the bank and makes sure that the bank doesn't go bankrupt. Now you can also do a bail-in. And the bail-in didn't happen in the United States, and I genuinely think it didn't happen. It's because people have guns. So a bail-in would be that the bank can just take your money. So like imagine you have money in a bank and a bail-in happens, like the bank is going bankrupt, and all of a sudden your money is gone. So like it doesn't matter like if it was a saving fund, if it was like money for your kid to go to college, doesn't fucking matter, right? A bail-in just means that the bank now has your cash and it's not yours anymore. If that were to happen, you would have Americans with the guns going into the bank, not to rob the bank, but to take their money back. So this is like one of the things why America has a Second Amendment. This is like the politicians are actually afraid of trying some shit out. Like they don't want to fuck around too much. So in the case of the banks, it's like, okay, we're not going to do a bail-in because Jesus fucking Christ. Thank you for being a member for 5 months, Mr. J. Fractional reserve banking is what you're describing. Usury and fractional reserve banking should be banned and are horrible. No, usury is not horrible. Like, no one would want to be a bank if they can't make a profit. Like, why the fuck would you want to lend money to people if you can't make a profit? And you need to lend money to people in order for a modern society to function. So, no, usury is fine. The problem is when it's too much. Right? Like even in medieval time, I was reading history books. And usually, like, people, like if you're a merchant and you are a money lender, right? It wasn't accepted. It wasn't, like, a thing that most people were proud of. But, like, if the percentage was small and he was just taking a little bit off the top, then most people would allow it. Because you know what? Even the priests needed a place where they could deposit their cash. Even the nobility needed a place where they could deposit their cash. Like everyone needed a place, right? So it was fine as long as you didn't go overboard. If you started going like 50%, then there would be people on the streets in front of your house. News on Nintendo in your notification. I see. Perhaps it's actually the modern society that's wrong. No, the modern society is there's just too many people. Like, you need to manage society in a way to account for, like, the millions of people that we have. This is what modern society means. And modern society is very fragile. Like, if electricity goes down, you would have people dying due to it. Right? So, you cannot have a medieval system when you have, like, hundreds of millions of people. It's impossible. So you need to have, like, a way that everything functions, everything moves in such a way so that people can still live. Banks don't be greedy. The thing that, So the problem isn't that banks are greedy. The problem is that banks are trying to influence legislation that pisses me off. And that they get special treatment. The fact that banks are greedy, like, that's fine. You know, as long as you sign the contract and no one forces you, it's your fault for fucking it up. Apparently China lost a nuke sub, what? I love how people just message me. They don't show me anything, they don't show me any link, they don't show, like, China lost a nuke sub. Okay. Well. Not good. So anyway, Ubisoft is now losing a lot of money. The investors are losing faith in it. And what people are saying is that there may be a hostile takeover coming soon. So basically, it's not that people are buying the dip. It's that people are going to be like, well, hold on a little bit. Maybe we can actually buy the company. Now, I don't know if the management change is going to be for the better or for the worst. But what I do know is I'm seeing, like, the CEO of Sony and other people being like, oh, well, we're not into the culture war. We're just here to create games. And this is interesting because if you're a person like me that has constantly monitored the gaming environment and you've constantly read the articles, a couple of years ago, they were like, oh, we're going to change the world with our games. Like, we're not just making games. We want to change, what did they call it? Social boundaries, and we want to change the way people think, and we want to achieve social progress through our games. And this is what they were saying a couple of years ago at E3. When I was waiting for game trailers, it's like, come on, do you not have a trailer? Do you not have something interesting? No, they didn't. All they were talking about is political nonsense. The only people that had games was Nintendo. Like, Nintendo had this guy. It looked like a middle-aged Japanese man. And, you know, unlike the other developers from Ubisoft, he wasn't happy. No, the Nintendo guy actually looked almost as if he is disgusted to see me. Right? He looked at my screen. He was very frowny. And again, like, disturbed that he has to be there, and he's disgusted to see me. And then he speaks. He speaks something like, we make games for filthy gaijin to enjoy. Here is list of games that we have made for Gaijin. Enjoy. And then it's like trailer after trailer after trailer of video games. That's it. Like no politics, no changing the world, no lecturing about, how the company... Meanwhile, you would see like a Western company like Ubisoft and it's like, oh, here at Ubisoft, oh my goodness, we're like a family, you guys. And we're all working together. Look how many women we hired. And we hired so many black people too. And look at this new character. Oh, did you know that they're trans? Oh, it's so fucking interesting, isn't it? And that was like literally the presentation for every single Western gaming company, right? And they would talk for like 25 minutes or so, and then they would show you like maybe one trailer of a video game that looked like shit. And then Nintendo comes up, and Nintendo is like, here's a trailer, here's a trailer, here's a trailer, here's a trailer, buy our game Gaijin. And that was it. I was like, well, why can't all the companies be like that? They didn't waste my time, they respected me. The games were actually cool, I remember. Some wholesome news. Shift Up thanked Mori Calliope because her music helped inspire the OCT for Stellar Blade. That is wholesome. Yeah, Mori Calliope is probably going to be even more popular now that Amelia Watson is retiring. Ubisoft had that sex scandal in 2020. Well, no, like, here's the thing with the sex scandals and shit. I want you to imagine that society would declare a crusade against theft. I mean, no one likes theft, right? So they would now declare a crusade against theft. And they would be incredibly extremist about it. They would be that even if you think about taking someone else's stuff, that's wrong, right? So like if you are sitting at the university and you need a piece of paper and you can't find one, but there's one next to you and you take that, that is a crime. You should be expelled from that university. You should be ostracized. You know, if you find a pencil on the ground and you take it, like, you should be ostracized. If you even joke about stealing, if you even like have a joke about, or if you make a video game with a thief, everything, right? It's problematic. It's horrible. It needs to go. Now, if you indoctrinate people in that mentality, right? And then they go to work at a company, how much do you want to bet that there's going to be police reports of stealing? Like, everyone is going to be, although I work at this company and it's filled with crooks, it's filled with thieves, right? Now, they did the same, but they did it with the rape culture. So, like, no one is okay with rape. No society, well, I mean, there are societies that tolerate it, but no Western society tolerates it. And so much so that if you go to prison with a sex crime, other prisoners do not treat kindly of you, right? Like, it's one of the worst things you can do. But they water down the definition to the point where, like, oh my God, he's raping me with his eyes. I was in the elevator and he approached me. And then he asked me out. Oh, you know? I was at the gym working. And I could feel the gaze on my buttocks. He was looking at me. So when you have, like, those people, and you put them in a work environment, they're just waiting for that lawsuit. They're like, come on, look at me. Oh, come on, approach me. Ah, you approach me. Come on, ask me out. Ask me out. Sexual harassment lawsuit, yes. Ding, 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 you know? Like, I just wanted to tell you, I think, like, this was either Blizzard or Disney. I forgot the company. But it was a lawsuit based on the fact that they're not paying the female staff as much as the male, right? So, like, they did, like, the average, and I think it was, like, a 0.5% difference or some shit like that. Like, literally, it could have been an accounting error. Literally, an accounting error could have... But, I mean, they were trained at university to protest, to do activism. So now they're suing the company, and I'm like, fucking good. Good. You should get sued. And of course they settled, because they don't want the bad PR. Even if they would win the lawsuit, they're assessing the damage, and they're like, okay, if we settle, we actually spend less time in court, we don't get dragged through the media, and it's better for us. And that's pretty much what happened. There's a reason men and women avoid women in the office now. I don't blame them, you know, like, a lot of people were upset that Ninja, who's married doesn't want to tutor women. And I was basically saying this is what's going to happen, inevitably. Now, there was a stat which showed that a lot of people would hook up at the workplace. It was like something like 30% of marriages was at the workplace. So basically, like, you know, people would meet at the workplace, they would vibe, and then they would go out, they would date, and they would get married. And this was in the 90s, early 2000s, right? And then the Me Too era comes, and this drops by like 70%. And they don't understand, like, why is it? And it's like, well, look, if you're going to make it so that a man can be ruined with an allegation and there's no way of clearing his name, because, like, you gotta remember what the Me Too era was. An allegation was enough. There was no need for evidence because the ideology was like, well, why would a woman lie? And I'm like, oh, Jesus, I don't fucking know. Why would a human lie? I mean, no human would ever lie, ever, under any circumstance. So, if you were accused, there was nothing you could do, like, absolutely nothing. Like, there were people that even had evidence. I have seen this happen at universities. I read about cases where they would even have the chat logs. They would even have, like, evidence that, no, they didn't do anything. And they would still get kicked out of the university. So, like, how can you blame them for not Keanu Reevesing that shit, for not Mike Pencing that shit, which is literally like, I don't want to be next to another woman unless there's another person present. And they were like, oh, but that's sexist. Okay, but that keeps him employed at a job. Like, that makes sure that he's never going to get into any trouble. Oh yeah, Johnny Depp, another example. He did get cleared, but again, like, look at the shit he went through before he got cleared. Every single person would be like, oh, Johnny Depp, hak toi, Johnny Depp, hak toi. You know, like, literally every single person was like that. He lost contracts, he lost businesses, but, you know, he managed to sue. Now the question is, what would have happened if Johnny Depp didn't have the recordings? If Johnny Depp went to the trial and he had no recordings or anything? What would happen then? So yeah, like, there are two individuals that are some of the luckiest motherfuckers on earth. One of them is Kavanaugh, the other one is Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp because he had the recordings, and Kavanaugh because they decided to fuck with the only man that was autistic enough to keep calendars from 30 fucking years ago. Like, motherfucker, if you ask me, like, I remember, like, I was basically talking in a previous stream how I never got a sponsorship on my channel. And then someone pointed out that I did, and I actually had to struggle to think, it's like, when the fuck did I get a sponsorship on my channel? And then I remembered, oh, yeah, like, shortly after I started, I had, like, 2 or 3 videos where I was promoting something, and then I didn't like the product, and I told people, it's like, okay, I stopped my sponsorship, I don't like the product, and after that, I never did another sponsorship, right? But, like, the idea is that even I forgot about it, because it was so fucking long ago. I don't even remember what I ate yesterday. But Kavanaugh, no, he knew exactly. He was like, oh, back in 1940 at Saturday, 5 p.m., I was... And people were like, well, actually, no, because you said that at 6 p.m. And I'm like, dude, you do realize that the man is talking about, is like grandfather time, you know, taking a journey down the memory lane. It's... The very fact that he even remembers the year is astonishing. Meanwhile, the accuser didn't know shit. The accuser didn't know when it happened. The accuser didn't know what party. Like, nothing. Because the accuser didn't expect this level of autism from him. The accuser didn't expect that he would actually have calendars. The accuser thought, oh yeah, I'll just say that when we were in college, he assaulted me. And then they're like, where? Oh, well, at a party. And Kavanaugh brings the calendars. All right, well, I got all the parties here. Which party? Where? What happened? Who else was there? And the accuser didn't know how to answer. It's like, okay. You know, like, the thing is, like, if it's a traumatic event, I guarantee you, if it's a traumatic event, you will remember most of the details surrounding it. It's like, okay, if you black out, like it's a traumatic event and you don't remember the actual thing, like, that can happen. Like, let's say you get stabbed, right? So you get stabbed and you go... and you're fighting, and at one point you're getting stabbed. Usually what happens is that a lot of people may have a memory blank. Like they know they got in a fight, but they don't actually remember the stab. They don't remember that, right? But they remember what led up to it. They remember what happened afterwards. Like, that is something that's ingrained in every person's mind. It's impossible not to remember those details. And if it's a traumatic event, you can live with it for the rest of your life, and you'll always remember that back alley. V. John Sebastian Bach smoked tobacco out back. You thought I wouldn't be able to pronounce it, didn't you, Crafter? Huh? but why would she lie? $2 million later, there she's gone. Yes. It exists, but in some communities, about half or more accusations are false. False accusations are more common. Okay, you gotta understand. Most accusations are true or false. It's just that they're unproven. Right? Now, it depends like what type of system you want. Do you want a system where you need to make sure that the people you lock up are guilty? In which case, if you can't prove it, you can't prove it. And it goes both ways, right? It is what it is. Or you want the system where you lock up innocent people. But if you do that, then why would people have faith in the system? Why would I... Like, if I know that your system is designed to lock up innocent people, why would I believe that the people in prison are guilty? Any one of them could be innocent. Libor Likota, thank you for the donation. Today's trivia. Gokun, a genre in which usually a woman consumes a large amount of white juice, not necessarily coming from a human. 259-4580. What the fuck? Why do I even need to know that? Nuance and complex accusations. No, like, usually, there is this thing called presumption of innocence, right? Like, we don't know if the person is innocent or not, but we presume them to be innocent until they're proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that they're guilty. So, most accusations are usually can't be proven. Now, if you can't prove it, you still presume the person is innocent, but he can still be guilty, right? So, there are, like, fake accusations, and fake accusations is when you prove that the accusation is fake. And there are multiple ways that it can happen. Like, for instance, if the person accuses the man, it's like, yes, he assaulted me yesterday. And the man goes, it's impossible because yesterday I was in Barcelona. Here's a plane ticket as evidence, right? So, like, he proves that he couldn't have done it unless he has a dick long enough to travel state lines. So that would be a fake accusation. Another type of fake accusation can be like, she says, oh yeah, well, he was harassing me, molesting me. And then people check the security footage and they see that nothing happened. Right? That's another way you can prove that it was a fake accusation. Another way would be if the victim themselves go like, okay, well, he did this and this and that. The person gets arrested. And then they come out and say, you know what? He actually didn't do it. I lied. Many such cases, by the way. So, you know, proving a fake accusation is also difficult. And it's also difficult to prove that an accusation is true. Which is why most accusations fall in between. Like, they can't be proven. Yes, Libor Likchota, your knowledge of the mysterious ways of human sexuality bypass those of my own, and that is something as knowledge that should be left out of the human psyche. Diddy forgot to pull a Nixon. I heard that Diddy doesn't want to eat the food because he's afraid it could be poisonous. Which, wouldn't surprise me. I bet like a lot of people are sweating bullets right now. A lot of people that went to these parties. And you know what Diddy did? Like, apparently before he actually got arrested, I think he knew. Now, I don't know how he knew. Maybe like someone was blackmailing him. It's like, hey, do this or we're going to reveal the information. Oh, never mind. I know how he knew. No, never mind. I know how he knew. But he knew. And he was basically publicly announcing the names of the people that will come to his birthday party. Like, he knew what he was doing. Now, okay, so how did he know? Well, if you actually read the case file, his defense explains it. And it's such an interesting story. Like, he could have actually gotten away with it. And he has gotten away with it for so many decades. Like, I just want you to understand, right? Like, so many people went to his parties, and nothing was done. Nothing was done. Okay, interesting. And he's a famous person, right? Like, all of them are famous people. It's like, not, okay. So how did he know? Well, apparently, a couple of years ago, there was this, I think, like, a woman. I forgot the name, because I don't watch celebrities. I don't, but like, I remember the event. There was a person which said, look, I wrote a book, and in that book, there's a lot of quotes from a lot of your victims. And we can do this two ways. Number one, you can buy the rights for my book. You can get the exclusive rights for $40 million. And this book doesn't come out. Or, I publish the book. And then he goes like, okay, publish the book. So, this person then goes back to Diddy a couple of months later and says, I'm going to take this to court. Right? Like, all the evidence that I have, I'm going to take it to court unless you pay me $40 million. Like, they were basically extorting him. And I think this is why he knew. So the person goes like, no, okay, fuck it. I'll go to court. And they go to court, and Diddy settles for $40 million. Now, when you do something like this, especially when you're a public figure like Diddy, and a lot of people have you under a microscope, there's other victims, and they go like, well, hold on a little bit. I've been victimized as well. Can I not get some money out of it? So now a lot of victims are filing suit as well. And the prosecutors, they got rep. You know, they got reputation as well. It's like, if you're a lawyer and you manage to get a case which is almost certain to go to prison, but you manage to get your client off, well, that's what's prestige for lawyers are. If you manage to take, like, a high-profile case. For instance, if I was to be Diddy's lawyer and I managed to get him off, either on a technicality or whatever, I mean, that would make me one of the most sought-off lawyers in the United States. Like, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Right? Like, this is how lawyers manage to create their reputation. So, how do prosecutors manage to create their reputation? Well, they take sexy cases. And this is a very sexy case because you have a very public figure. You got everyone's eyes on it, right? So, like, if you manage to be the prosecutor that puts Diddy behind bars, a lot of opportunities open in your career. So, obviously, like, one prosecutor seeing, like, all these people are going in and they're they're filing lawsuits against Diddy, is like, okay, well, let's see if there's nothing there, because usually when there's smoke, there's fire. So that's when the raids happened, that's when the discovery happened, and it's like, oh, okay, so there is something there. So the question is like, how did Diddy know? Well, he was being extorted. And this is according to his defense, right? Like, this is according to the lawyers that are defending him and their story. This is the same thing that happened to Roy Moore R. from my state. He was accused of rape from 30 years ago. You can say rape on YouTube now, by the way. There was a time when you couldn't, but now it's fine. Also, this was during a special election and Doug Jones D won easily. Imagine that. The allegations were suddenly disappeared. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you look at the allegations and why they disappear and it makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't. The American system is really weird where you have like a lot of plea deals and shit. Like, I was looking into a news that came out recently. And, you know, when you're reading it, it's outrageous. But then when you actually read the case file, you understand why the prosecutors did what they did. So, like, the news was on Twitter. It was trending. And it was about a they-them person working, I think it was at a hospital as a nurse in the department where they have the newborns, right? So this person is reported by one of their colleagues for allegedly tickled the genital area of a newborn and saying that well, they liked it. It felt good, right? So like this person presses charges. The guy is now arrested, is in jail, and the prosecutors let them go without any time served, without any without having them on the registry. And I think like it was actually some time served. I think it was like a couple of months or something, and no time in the registry, right? So like you're reading this, and you're like, well, what the fuck? Like what? Hold on a little bit. Like where is the justice here? Like what the fuck? But then when you're actually reading the case, you realize that besides the coworker that was filing the that was filing the accusation, there was no other evidence. There was no camera footage. The person didn't confess. There was no one, right? It was just her word. So if you were to take this in front of a jury, it's very likely that the person would have gotten away scot-free. So this is why, you know, like on the surface, you're reading it in the press, and you're like, well, what the fuck is happening? Where's the justice? But then when you're looking at the actual case, and you notice the evidence and the stuff, you're like, okay, well, if it had gotten to court, chances are the person wouldn't have been convicted beyond a reasonable doubt. Like, it's just one act, it's just one word against another person, right? So the prosecutor were like, okay, well, can we at least get something? Can we at least, you know, and they managed to get a plea deal. Yeah, the problem with the plea deals is that, like, imagine this. You get arrested in the United States. Maybe it's a crime in the... Oh, this is an actual case. It happened in Britain. So, there was this gravedigger, and as he's doing his rounds during the night, he manages to find a dead woman. And he tries to carry her away in a place where there's more light so that he can see what's happening. But the cops catch him as he's dragging this woman, right? And apparently, they think he's guilty. So they take him to the police station where they interrogate him, they put him under pressure. And usually what happens is that they will keep you in the jail, and, you know, they don't tell you when your court order is, when your court is due, but they keep asking you. It's like, did you do it? Did you do it? And if you say you did it, then all the shit just goes away. Like, they take you to prison, you know how much time you got to serve, you know, you do the plea deal. And there are, you know, not extreme cases like this, but there are other cases where, like in the UK right now, there's people that were caught with the far-right riots, right? So, like, they catch you with the far-right riots, and they put you in jail, and they will say, all right, well, we know that you tweeted grossly offensive stuff on the computer. Now, you can wait, but our court systems are filled right now. There's a lot of people in the court system. So we really don't know when your time is going to come out. And you're going to be locked up with other criminals in a jail, spending your days like that. Or if you admit you're guilty, we can speed up the process. So if you notice that in the UK, almost every single person that was arrested and convicted for grossly offensive communications were because they admitted guilt. It gets better after this. Roy Moore was able to sue for falsifying these allegations and won. So they lied to help to get a Democrat elected. But what if the allegations were falsified, though? Hostage justice. Yeah. They do it the same in Japan as well. Like, usually countries that have like 90% conviction rate are very sus. That's why you don't let them arrest you for bullshit. It's not like you have a choice. Yes, it's 5 years, but we have evidence to get 20 plus. Yeah, this is another reason why you should never talk to the cops. You should always call for a lawyer. Like, you gotta understand, the cops aren't there to be your friend, right? The lawyer is your friend. I missed the super chat. I'm sorry, Nightmare. I'll check it out right now. America is so woke, we race swapped Epstein. Oh. From my understanding, though, Epstein was with politicians while Diddy was with celebrities. So, like, they were kind of in the same area, but, like, different specializations. You know, like, you have a cardiologist and you have, like, an endocrinologist. Endocrinologist, I think it's called, yeah. Gastroenterologist and a cardiologist, right? It's the same thing. Like, they're both doctors, but different specializations. And I think, like, Diddy was specializing on celebrities, while Epstein was specializing in politicians. Is this fair to say? Is this accurate? There was a little bit of an overlap, though. There was a little bit of an overlap, because I remember, like, some people from Blizzard went to the Epstein Island. But, like, again, you can't convict someone just for going on the island. Maybe they didn't know I was on the island. You know, maybe they were invited, and once they saw it, they were like, "Whoa, that's not for me." Or maybe there were like different types of guests. There were like guests for the regular parties and guests for the more underground parties, right? So this is what a lot of politicians and a lot of people on that did go to the island are benefiting from. It's the benefit of the doubt. It's like, well, just because they went on the island, I mean, Do you think Epstein and Diddy were colleagues? Epstein had celebrities and politicians and wealthy people in general? Before lawyers are involved, they can lie about evidence and lie about softer penalty and confession, effectively railroading you into a full sentence. It doesn't matter. You shouldn't talk at all until a lawyer arrives. You have the right to remain silent. No, seriously, like, that's my legal advice to anyone. And if you ask a lawyer, they will tell you the same thing. Just so you know, when a lawyer gets in trouble, they call another lawyer. Like, even though the lawyer can represent themselves. Like, let me give you an example of as to why. If the cop asks you, have you started the fight? And you say no, then it can be interpreted that you were in the fight. But if the lawyer says, my client didn't start the fight, then that can't be interpreted as you were in the... See? It's kind of like internet blood sports, but it's in the judicial area. Like, there are so many things that cops do, and this is like part of the training. And many people don't know, like a traffic stop, for instance, right? So you get a traffic stop. And the police officer, you know, like, wants your license and registration. I'm just talking for America right now, like the American system. The police officer asks for your license and registration. And then they start small talk. Like, why do they think they start small talk? Do you think they give a shit? No, seriously, like, picture yourself. You're the police officer, and you're standing in the rain or snow or scorching heat. Why the fuck do you start small talk with people? Don't you just want to do your job and fuck off? Don't you want to ride the thing? The reason that they're starting the small talk is that they want an arrest. Why do they want an arrest? Well, first of all, they actually get out of the scorching sun and heat. They go back to the station. It's how they also get prestige. It's like, look, this is a good officer. Look how much money he's bringing in. You know, look how many crooks he's catching. So they want an arrest, right? It's what they do. It's police officers. It's police work. Now, they can't force an arrest. Like, if there's nothing there, there's nothing there. But if there is something there, they want to find it. So why do they start small talk? That's why. What is small talk? Well, they'll start going, it's like, where are you going? Right? And they're very friendly about it as well. It's like, where are you going? Where are you coming? What are you doing? Right? Why would they give a fuck? Why would they give a fuck about what you're doing? The reason is that they're going to be like, okay, if you say that you went to a party, if you say that you went to a baseball game, if you say that you went anywhere, right? Anywhere where alcohol is served, the next question is going to be, how much did you have to drink? Now, if you say that you had even one drop of something to drink, now they have reasonable doubt. Oh, they got reasonable... See, this is part of the investigation. Like, you think it's a small talk, but you're into an investigation. So now if you said that you had even a small, tiny droplet, you inhaled the smell of a rotten apple, it doesn't fucking matter, right? Like, now they can just say, step out of the car. If they say step out of the car, you gotta step out of the car. And then they put you to do those tests. And by the way, I don't even have a car, but I looked at the tests that they ask you to take. Like, if you have a limp leg, or if you have, like, some back problems, or even, like, if you're just, like, completely healthy, but you're nervous because of the situation, cars are driving by, you can fail those tests. Like, they're so fucking easy to fail. So, step out of the car, start patting you down, get you to do the test, you fail the test, now your entire shit, you know, they can ask, can we search your vehicle? If you say yes, you give them permission. If they start searching your vehicle, they can literally rip off the chairs from the vehicle. They can turn your vehicle upside down. They weren't paying for any damages. You can stay there for 1 or 2 hours, right? So, this is why. Well, I mean, it depends. You're supposed to assess the police officer, right? But this is why, when you're stopped, you have your driver legislation, you give it to them, you follow the commands, and if you notice that the officer starts a lot of small talk, and you're like, not having it because of why I said, you can say, look, officer, I'm willing to respond all of your questions, but I would like to request the presence of a lawyer. And if he keeps talking, you say, well, I require my right to remain silent. And then you can ask him, am I free to leave? And when you ask him this question, in America, they're not allowed to legally detain you more than what is considered normal for a traffic stop. So, like, the moment you ask them, like, you show that you want to leave, well, they can't keep you more than an hour or so. Like, if they keep you more than that, it's already, they will lose in court. And they know this shit. So, yeah, officer, I invoke the right to remain silent. Pretty much, like, you don't have to elaborate, you don't have to say anything else. But the thing is, like, you actually gotta remain silent after that. You can't just say it and then start talking with the man. Like, officer, I invoke the right to remain silent, and if he keeps talking, you just say, officer, I would love to answer your question, or I would love to assist you with the investigation, but I require the presence of my lawyer. They can still fuck with you, though. Like, they can say, oh, we're going to bring a drug dog here in order to sniff your car and shit. Like, they can still fuck with you, but usually they don't wanna. Because, like, again, the purpose of the cop is not to waste his time. Like, he will probably know, oh, this is, like, some guy that knows the law. This is some guy that actually spoke with the lawyer. Ugh. You know? Like, they don't want the trouble. Like, usually they want the person that incriminates themselves. It's like, where have you been? Where have you go? Oh, I've been to my son's birthday party. How much did you have to drink? Oh, I had 2 glasses. Oh, my goodness. Okay, step out of the car, sir. You know, like, that's what they want. They don't want a person that's actually going to potentially file a lawsuit against them. Staying silent is the 5th. I'm not a fucking American. You should know which is the 5th, which is the 19th, and which is the... speaking in tongues is okay. No, it's not. If you speak in tongues, they have reasonable doubt that you're intoxicated. Officer, you wouldn't mind if I search your car? How would you respond that? You would respond that officer, I would love to collaborate with you, but first I would require my lawyer present. They can't say anything. The only thing they can do is to ask for license and registration, to ask you to sign for the shit they give you to sign, and to also ask you to step out of the car. They have the right to pat you down, and of course they have the right to arrest you. Even if they don't have the right to arrest you, you still shouldn't fight them on this. Just let them arrest you, because otherwise you get tased, you get pepper sprayed, right? So you just let them arrest you. And then when you're in the section, you ask for the lawyer, and that's when you clear things up. Can you search my car? No. That's what they teach you when you defend yourself with a firearm. Be polite and respectful, but say you want to cooperate, but only with the lawyer. I mean, that's like so fucking obvious. Yeah, no, like, you should never talk to the cops without a lawyer present. Especially, look. Let me put it this way, right? The reason you should be nice to the cops, because I see, like, by the way, I just want to mention why I know all this. First of all, I'm fascinated with legislation. Like, I'm generally curious to see how the American system compares to the Romanian system. But the second thing that I like is to watch these YouTube videos with people sparking up during traffic violations, right? And I'm like, well, what would I have done if I'm there? And it's pretty like 99% of the time I would have walked away scot-free. Unless it's an actual criminal and they actually have like bad things in the car, and then like, okay, well. But you have like all these people sparking out at the cops, right? And after watching so many videos, my conclusion is that you should never be impolite with the cops. And the reason for this is that usually in America, unlike Romania, they can stop you for they only stop you for traffic violations. So like if you drive perfectly fine and your car is in order, like they don't have a right to stop you. In Romania, it's not like that. But in the United States, it is, right? So when they stop you for that traffic violation, usually they have, depending on the violation, of course, they have the ability to just give you a warning. They have the ability to give you a fine. Or they have the ability to fuck with you. So you don't want them to fuck with you. And probably you don't want the fine either. So if you're being nice to them, if you're being cooperative, polite, and you show that you're remorseful and you understand what you did, they can give you a warning or they can give you a fine that's in the lower range of what's allowed and permitted, right? So like if you're being an asshole, if you're being a dick, if you're just going out of your way to piss off the cop, they'll start fucking with you. Now, in the case of self-defense, so as someone said, it's like, okay, well, you shot someone. They're not going to let you off with a fine. They're not going to let you off with a warning. That's a criminal investigation. You need to shut the fuck up and call your lawyer. That's it. Cops can stop you for many things. See, I didn't know that. If that is true, I did not know. I thought they need to have reasonable suspicion to stop someone. I think like, oh, they can stop you at a checkpoint, right? So like if there's a checkpoint, they can actually stop the people that go through the checkpoint. Yeah, in Romania, if you insult a cop, they can give you a fine. Yeah. Cops don't give you fines? Is it the... Well, okay, me no speaking English. Traffic ticket, right? They give you a traffic ticket. You still have to pay. It's the same concept. I should become a sovereign citizen. They can make up reasons. But yeah, but it depends. Like, if they fuck with you and you have evidence that they fucked with you. And usually it's easy to have evidence because, like, they have body cams and shit, right? So, like, if they make up reasons and you can prove that they made up a reason, the judge can throw the entire case away. So, it's in your advantage. They go after people who avoid the checkpoint too. Well, obviously. No, but like, okay, imagine you're a police officer, right? Like, put yourself in their shoes. You're a police officer, and you have a checkpoint. Let's say it's to catch a criminal, escape prison, right? So you have a checkpoint. And you have the first car going through, you have the second car going through, you have the third car going through, and the fourth car sees the checkpoint and just goes like, and turns around. Like, what goes in your mind as a police officer when you see that shit? Let's be honest. If that's not reasonable suspicion, I don't know what fucking is. Costs money to defend yourself, even with proof. Yeah, but then you can sue the cop and take money away from them. I was stopped once by cops because I went on a red light on a bicycle. I got off with a warning. I think because I was very polite and remorseful. Yeah, me too. Like, the only time I actually dealt with the police, I think it was my birthday, and I was young, I maybe 14, 15, and it was the middle of the fucking night, and there was this small street with a traffic light, and I was running, and I didn't see the cops because they came from the shadows. It was like they were the shadow people. And I ran on a red light, and they were like, identification, sir. They didn't call me sir because I was a kid. But I was basically explaining to them. It's like, look, I'm really sorry. I shouldn't. I was in a rush because I'm late for my birthday party. So yeah, they gave me a warning, and that was it. I talked myself out of a traffic ticket once. Don't know if I can do it again. Anyway, right. Thank you guys for watching, for tuning in. Thank you for the super chats. I appreciate it. I'm going to go upload the rest of the videos on my other channels now. And I'll see you guys later.